So the subject of this video is one of the tasks that most writers find very difficult, and that's how do you begin? At some point, every writer is faced with that blank sheet of paper or with that empty screen in front of them, and they have to begin writing or they have to begin typing something on that keyboard. Tonight we're going to take you through a couple of different things that you can do to make sure that your introductions are always interesting and attention-getting and make your readers want to hear the rest of what you have to say. Probably the most common opening that teachers have seen on papers time after time and year after year are things that begin like this. My topic is, or today I'm going to talk about, or even, hi, my name is, whatever your name is, and I'm here to tell you about whatever it is you're going to talk about. But this is boring, and it's also kind of juvenile. It might have been something that was good when you didn't know how to begin a paper in about second grade, but now that you're hitting high school, we're going to talk about some more sophisticated ways that you can start your papers. So let's imagine that you have to write a paper or you have to give a speech about a traumatic trip to the dentist. Now, if you're like me, nearly every trip to the dentist is also traumatic. But let's say you're going to write a story about a time that things were really difficult and you were really scared and really frightened or something really didn't go well. So all of these are going to be different ways that you could start your paper about this trip to the dentist. The first technique is to just begin with some sort of interesting fact. Now, the more startling or difficult or really eye-catching this fact is, the more effective it will be. So if you can imagine beginning a trip about a paper about a trip to the dentist with something like, the human tooth is the last thing left after the rest of the body has settled into dust and decay, you better believe most people are going to sit there and want to hear the rest of what you have to say. Imagery is a technique where you use your words to really paint a picture of what's happening. This helps the reader see themselves in that exact situation and helps to kind of mentally transport them to what you're writing and really engages them and makes them interested in the rest of the piece. So for example, if we go back to our dentist office, let's say we were going to describe exactly what it felt like to be sitting in that chair before your appointment. The squish of the dental hygienist's rubber sneakers rubbing on the worn-down shag carpet interrupted my reading. I had just settled into a magazine that showed a cover story with a star who had been important 8 months ago. So that's the kind of thing that, again, that lets the reader imagine themselves in that situation. And the more you can use sensory descriptions, what things looked like, smelled like, tasted like, or the sounds and things that you heard around you, the more effective you'll be at capturing your reader. A rhetorical question is a question that's asked not to get an answer, but just to get people thinking. So it's something that you say that you don't really expect anyone to answer back. For example, if you ever come home a little bit too late at night and had your father or mother standing there saying, "Do you know what time it is, young man?" And they're not really looking for you to say, "Well, yeah, Dad, it's 11:17. That's not the answer. They're really just trying to get you to think about what's happening. So going back to our dentist story again, you could begin by asking your reader a rhetorical question. Now, obviously, the reader isn't going to be able to answer back, but in their minds, they're going to start answering the question, which means you've hooked them and you've got them engaged in your story. An anecdote is just a good SAT vocabulary style word that means a little story. An anecdote is when you begin a larger story by telling a little tiny story at the beginning that's going to be related to the bigger story. And again, this helps to hook your reader at the beginning because they want to hear more about it. So if you go back to your trip to the dentist and began with something like, I remember a clear September day when my aunt came to visit, bringing those little maple sugar leaf candies you only get up in New England at those ersatz country stores. Don't eat too many or your teeth will rot, I can remember her jokingly saying to me. How I wish now that I had listened to her wise words. So you can see how this little short story at the beginning sets up for the rest of the story you're going to write about your dentist visit. Another trick that can sometimes be very effective is to use a quotation. Now, whether it's a quotation that people already know really well and recognize, or a quote from something like a song lyric, or just a new sort of thought or idea, by taking somebody else's words that are already really well written and using them to introduce the rest of your story, you automatically have a way that your readers are going to want to hear the rest of it. Another surefire way to get your audience's attention is to just start talking to them directly. And you can do this in writing by using the second person voice. So this is kind of a finger point at the audience where they sit up and say, "Me? Are you talking to me?" And that's it exactly. You want them to have the sense that they are talking directly to you. So you could begin your dentist story by something like, "Picture yourself in an uncomfortable chair with a bright light shining directly in your eyes." And by doing that, you're telling the audience what to do, and they automatically start to engage in the story that you're going to tell. Or something like, "Never, ever, ever eat candy again. I'm telling you, from this day forward, just forget about anything with a sugar content greater than a piece of fresh fruit." So again, that direct method of address can sometimes really grab and hook an audience for your story. A lot of times in writing, you're trying to take a stand and show your position or defend a point of view. Sometimes it's really great at the very beginning of a story to take a really strong position or state a strong opinion. By saying something directly at the beginning, the audience will do one of two things. Either they're going to agree with you, in which case you've got them on your side and now they're paying attention, or they're going to disagree with you, which is also great because now they're arguing with you in their minds as they're reading, and that makes them again engaged and want to hear the rest of your paper. So whether it's for your This I Believe essay or any piece of writing that you do, the next time that you have to put something together that's going to be for a reader or for an audience, try experimenting with one of these techniques to see if you can really get them want to hear the rest of your story.